Alright guys, TJHaLy here again today, and I'm recording this a few days in advance of when it's going live. I think you guys will be seeing this Monday. I'm very busy for the next week or so pretty much every video is going to be recorded in advance, which means it's going to be difficult to talk about the Pro League or anything particularly spicy that happens over the next few days. But I will be talking about rosters, so hopefully that will suffice. So anyway, talking about the Pro League, it should start tonight from when you guys are watching this video, and these are the current standings. So just to go through them real quick, today we're going to talk about Luminosity. The last couple of days I've talked about Envy and Splice respectively, so if you want to go check those out, the links will be down below if you haven't seen them yet. So yes, Luminosity currently not even possible to get into playoffs. They can get into playoffs through the play-in, just to make that clear. Haven't gone into details of how that works yet because I don't fully understand, but I'll have a look into it over the hopefully the videos in the coming days, just to explain that at least before the time comes that the play-in actually happens. But effectively, even if you're in the bottom 4 here, you can still qualify for the 10-team playoffs through a bracket basically of the bottom 8 teams. And Luminosity and Enigma 6 will definitely be in that play-in bracket. They will not be automatically qualifying because they physically cannot, even if they won all of their remaining games. So these are the current standings. When we look at Evil Geniuses tomorrow, we'll have a look at 6 and 12 and how exactly they'll stack up when we look at the schedule. So this is this week's of action. These are tonight's games. Units UIU, E6 LG. So that's LG's matchup for tonight. Both teams that can no longer make it in. So that will be interesting to see. Both new teams, of course. Splice FaZe is interesting. Just to have a look at Splice real quick because we talked about them yesterday. They're 9-9 right now. I kind of talked about it as if it was a guarantee that they would make it into Miami for the playoffs, which they should in theory. They're not guaranteed, but they are 9-9 right now. And their next closest competitors are 7-11. So they would have to get overhauled by either Envy, which I don't see as likely. They're playing Gen.G, Reciprocity, OpTic Gaming, and Midnight. So in theory, Envy there probably would go 1-3, 2-2. And then it's the same story for Elevate. They're playing Midnight, OpTic, Gen.G, and Reciprocity. So probably 1-3 again for Elevate. So unless Splice really don't have a good time of things against UIU and they're playing LG as well, then even though they might lose here to FaZe in their first ever matchup, there's nothing wrong with that as far as they're concerned. If that does happen by the time you're watching this video, maybe a little bit more down the line. But yeah, so in theory, Splice should still qualify is kind of what I was going for yesterday. So these are all the confirmed teams right now. I recorded yesterday's video when Elevate or Evil Geniuses weren't even yet announced, so that's fine. Accuracy has now been confirmed on EG. We'll talk about that change tomorrow, but this is the one we're looking at. 4th at Vegas. Luminosity Gaming, Slacked, John, Formal, Brack, and Skyz is the change. Ricky as coach. They're bringing in a guy called Twerk as their substitute. Haven't heard too much about this guy. If you have, then let me know. These are supposedly going to be the substitutes, but I may go over that in more detail in coming days. So I thought you guys could just have a look at where the changes lied. And these are the ones that are unchanged. So this was their announcement. Luminosity confirmed a couple of days ago now. Formal, Brack Skyz, John, and Slacked is going to be the team. And the first thing that stands out, I'll just let this play if it's going to be a little bit laggy. You know how it is. It's on Twitter and my laptop's doing other things. But regardless, this team is interesting. Of course, Gunless no longer on the team. He's gone to Envy. The old team did not get along with him at all. There was basically no chance he was going to be coming back. Now, Classic is out the team. He's gone to UIU. And the replacements are Brack and Skyz. Two very hot performers so far this season, it has to be said. So let's look into the roles here because it seems kind of clear to me that John and Slacked will be the SMGs. Now, if there's anywhere where there is a weakness on this team, it's going to be the SMG line. There really is no doubt in my mind. The assault rifle line should, in theory, be absolutely filthy. There's no way these guys should be bad. They've been so good all the way this season. And yeah, this is what Formal says just to clear things up. Yes, Cesar, that's Skyz, will be ICR for now. But just to make it clear, I did a tweet saying, really happy, whatever. Is Formal going back to ICR then? And Lion Man responds to me, they'll probably run scrims with both, and who performs better or feels more comfortable will run ICR. And Formal actually liked this tweet, which kind of implies to me that this is probably closer to the truth than necessarily saying, Skyz will be ICR. Because if we look at this team, just for a second again in more detail, here we go. So these are the 5. This is going to be playing again anyway. Who cares? You guys can watch it in the background. Seems to be performing a little bit better on this one. So anyway, Like, John and Slacked as your SMGs. Let's start there. John has not been good this season. Scraps was talking on the Crowder Hours podcast that John, like, took bottom 5 players in the league or something along those lines. Like, he has not been good anywhere near his normal level. And we tend to have seen in previous games that towards the end of the year, he does tend to improve. There's no doubt about that. It's happened in the past. But it's usually happened much earlier than this. Towards the end of Black Ops 3, he was undoubtedly one of the best players in the game. He could use every single weapon. In World War II, he really came good rather early. He was the MVP at Birmingham, and that was the end of March that year, or like last year, even 2018. This year hasn't seemed to improve pretty much at all. He's had some good games on frequency, but the fact of the matter is he is on a huge contract, and as in, he's getting a lot of money a month, let's put it that way, upwards in the region of like 20 grand, something like Zuma's contract is. And I guess to some extent, when you have a contract like that, maybe the incentives to improve and do whatever are somewhat reduced. And yeah, he just hasn't been as good this season as he has in past seasons. There's no other way about it to look at it. And he's clearly, I think, the weak link on this team right now. I think the Classic was the right change to move. Of course, you couldn't have Gunless anyway, due to the absolutely catastrophic collapse of the team chemistry. But I think Classic was probably the right man to remove. They did win Fort Worth when he was on the Rampart. Of course, that was his weapon of choice. He really couldn't get anything going with the Maddox. He's really too slow of a player to fit the role that these guys needed for my money. So, John and Slacked on your SMGs. Okay, possible that these guys can come good and do something. I doubt they will be. They're not going to be a top tier SMG duo. This team is not going to be winning games off their SMG duo. Like, you look at a team like Splice now, who can Jerd on your SMGs if you're going to run 2 on a map, say a map like Frequency or something like that. Then you look at a team like E United, Simp and Abizi, you know, OpTic Gaming, Scump and TJ. There are some rumours that they're going to make some the role changes, but apparently those aren't, you know, I heard it on Sunday night that they were going to change out, so over a week ago now, that they were going to put Karma on the SMG and Scump on the Maddox, but I think those were just instinctive, like reactive changes because they just come top 3 that day. Apparently since then, those things have been rolled back, so not 100% sure, but look, they're not going to be dominating in the SMG category. For my money, Slacked has been quite good this year on the whole. I respect him as a player. I think he's been relatively good, but he's not going to be a hard carry type player. He did have a couple of really good weeks in the Pro League, as did kind of John when LG were kind of coming good before their Fort Worth run. But look, the real powerhouse of this team is obviously in the AR line, and maybe that's fine. Maybe that's what you need. If John and Slacked can go out and make space and they can create, you know, they can create space for the rest of their team, and they can effectively just be the bait for their assault rifles, then maybe this team can work nicely. There's not many other teams right now that have, well, relatively a weak, like, SMG line. In theory, John and Slack should be good. They've won championships together in the past, but in terms of how they've performed this season in Black Ops 4, typically John's also a very good player in Black Ops games. More generally, he's been very good. This year, it just hasn't happened, just hasn't materialized. So, the fact that those are your SMG line, we don't really have another team, I think, right now that has such a disparity, in theory, between their performance levels of their ARs and their SMGs. So we'll have to see how this works out for them. It's going to be an interesting team dynamic, and, you know, if John and Slacked are willing to just fly out first and bait for these guys, as we've talked about the last few days, if there is an SMG buff, then they will be called upon more often, rather than maybe one of them can use a Maddox more often at times. We'll have to see how it goes. But let's get on to the rest of the team, because that's why the video of this, the title of this video is something along the lines of an unbelievable Maddox duo, because Formal and Brack right now are going to be the Maddoxes. It seems that Skyz is going to be on the ICR. Now, he was running the ICR earlier on in the season. I think he was using it on the UYU team, but didn't really impress me too much there. He's really been impressive, has Skyz, on the Maddox. And of course, Formal being this player who's a legendary player on the Dynasty team with OpTic, like, he's not going to back down necessarily and get himself on the ICR again if he doesn't have to, because that's where LG really had their struggles when he was on the ICR and Gunless was on the ICR a bit, or at least the main assault rifle. Sometimes players bring out multiple ICRs in a game, and honestly in the current meta, having both Formal and Skyz on your ICRs could be pretty damn filthy in the controls especially. We'll have to see how the meta is developing tonight when the Pro League begins in just a few hours. So yes, it seems like Skyz is going to be the main ICR. He's been unbelievable this season, at least in the latter half of it, since he's gone on to EXG and then more recently gone onto this Elevate team. It's been really fantastic for him, and he's really had a breakout. I remember watching him back in Infinite Warfare using the assault rifle, and his shots were so crisp. So it's nice to see him get his opportunity. And Brack as well has had an interesting and difficult season to some degree. Been on that Midnight team that had so much success. Then, you know, the team collapsed. He went on to EXG, then he went on to Units. Performed really well on both of them. Not so well at this most recent Anaheim event, even though he did have a great map 1 against OpTic when they won. Like, he had like 47 kills or something like that. And then you've got Formal. Now, this guy has typically been phenomenal when it comes around to Call of Duty Championships. In terms of a Maddox duo, he has been very, very good as of late on the Maddox. You know, him and Gunless, when they did use it very briefly and they had Classic on the ICR, seemed to be filthy, you know. So, we'll have to see how it goes. A 2 Maddox setup right now for Formal and Brack could be unbelievable. The kind of statistics these guys could be putting up is next level. Skyz on the ICR could be transferred to the Maddox at any point if required. It's just difficult to say where I see this team landing in the overall landscape. So let's have a look back at these teams here. So look, let's look forward to champs real quick. Which teams can you see competing for the World Championship? So obviously 100 Thieves are one of them. Obviously OpTic Gaming are one of them. Now, in terms of teams that I can actually see lifting the trophy, I think that United, I think that Gen.G, I think that FaZe will compete, and they will be up there, and they will be a competitive team come the World Championship, and they are today, of course. But can I see them actually lifting the championship? I'm not so sure. There's things about these teams that I'm not still 100% sure they have all pieced together. And I could probably say the same about a team like Splice. And then where do I put LG in terms of my power rankings right now? They're probably ahead of a lot of teams. I'm not sure where to put Reciprocity right now. We'll have to see how the Pro League goes. But there are so many good teams right now, and there are so many good, well-rounded teams that can I see LG really overhauling a team like 100 Thieves? You know, 100 Thieves, Enable and Priestahh on your aggressive counterparts. And yes, it's difficult to say. I'd be really intrigued to hear your thoughts on this, because we don't really have a team right now that has an overly weak SMG line. And, you know, I guess you're Enable and Priestahh to some degree, but they're just so strong all around. And Priestahh's an unbelievable player anyway. And Enable, in my opinion, has been significantly better than John has this year. So even in that sense, Slacked and John seem to be, you know, significantly weak links in this team. It's tough to say it any other way, to be honest. So I don't know how competitive this team can be. I think it does lie on John and Slacked. I don't think that Formal, Brack and Skyz can do it all on their own by any means. And it'll be very interesting to see. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Like if you did, subscribe if you're new as always. Leave your thoughts on this down in the comments section below. And yeah, where do you see Luminosity Gaming landing? Maybe I'm being overly negative on this team, but you know, I think they may be around the top 6 range. They might be able to push a top 4, but I really can't see them necessarily getting higher than that right now. Because where exactly is their leadership coming from? I guess it comes from Slacked and Formal, I guess. I think John's a pretty quiet guy. I don't know how much the other guys are gonna contribute to kind of team play and stuff like that. So yeah, and Ricky's back on coach, so maybe that will be a good beneficial aspect for them. But for me, it's still difficult to predict this team, where to put them. I don't have as much faith as I do in Splice, let's put it that way, because I think that team is very, very well-rounded, whereas this team has some clear weaknesses that we can look at. And it's difficult to say how exactly the cohesion will come together. You're effectively just putting together players that have been very, very good and hoping it works out. And it should on paper, but there's only 2 events left. Whether they can win one of them is, in my opinion, unlikely. But yeah, there's just so many good teams right now. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Like if you did, subscribe if you're new as always. Thank you guys so much for watching as always, and I will see you next time.
Go the smoke as soon as you can. I'm literally not stopping. He made it. Who makes the fucking mid cut like that? That's such a bad nade too. Bounced off the wall. Fuck you. Oh! Diesel bombs ready! Oh! What did I just watch?
I've got one for it.
BO4 is going on. He's going on.